The person that should have been here is the zonal coordinator, but he is handing over as zonal coordinator, having completed 35 years of meritorious service to the job tomorrow. So he's pretty engaged. And I was called at a very short notice to come here. But be that as it may, I have been a follower of the present Controller General of Customs for more than 25 years. So I can tell you that if I speak here, I will speak part of what he would have loved to tell you. I walked in when Dr. Muda Yusuf was speaking. He is somebody that has been very passionate about custom processes. And everything he said is no different from what the present Controller General of Customs, the management of customs, and indeed past custom administrations have been talking about. And what is that? How to reform our port and maritime environment and custom business to be highly competitive, not just within Nigeria subsector, economical subsector, but also within the sub-region. And this has become more imperative now that we are working towards implementing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. There's no better time to make our ports competitive than now. And indeed, this law came in at the right time. We couldn't have been operating within the sub-region and, of course, within the continent with a law that was made in 1955 and was last amended effectively in 2004. So it is most appropriate that in 2023, we came up with this law. Yes, there are so many other aspects of this law that has been institutionalized. Issues of rules of origin, issues of Chapter 70 to 74, as Man just mentioned, and issues of intellectual property right. Of course, it's even important to me, this aspect, because I was the second person to head intellectual property arm of Nigerian Customs Service after ACG Alpha, who just retired last week. In developing that aspect, we were so futuristic about it. And when ACG Alpha was developing it and I was supporting him, it's as if we knew that a day like this will come. And why did I say that? Nigeria has grown so big that I don't think we can compete with Morocco in issues of manufacturing textiles, or even in manufacturing wine, for instance, if we don't optimize issues of rules of origin. So I will call on all of us here to devote specifically another section for just discussions on issues of rules of origin. That is the future. That is the future of our trade environment. I will give you an instance. Vehicles are manufactured in South Africa. If under ACFA, vehicles come under such trade, can we import cars from South Africa without payment of duty, as zero duty, as vehicles manufactured in Africa? So the issue of percentage of value added to such vehicles should be in the front burner. I just gave an example. We're already battling with such similarities under ETLS, even though our trading public does not take full advantage of opportunities offered by ETLS. Even for us as a country, goods manufactured in Nigeria, which are exported as far as Central African Republic. By the way, I just left Semeboda 7.5 months ago, so I can be an authority in this. If I give you data of undocumented trade of goods manufactured in Nigeria, which cross our border, for which are largely unreported. And this is why it is important that we pay attention to rules of origin. If there's any other thing we are going to leave here with today, it is that there should be another session on rules of origin to be pioneered and anchored by all of us here. It is very important. Now, having said that, I listened to all the concerns raised. I'm going to take them back to the Controller General of Customs, particularly on issues of interpretation. Let me state that what Man said, for instance, on section 70 to 74 of this law, they're very germane. But if you look at it, by the time we finish the first aspect of it, which is section 70 on transaction value, there may even be no need for us to go to 72 and 74. There may be no need, considering the Nigerian trading environment. What I will suggest here is that, and I'm happy that we have Alaba, Aspanda, Eladipo representatives here. In our documentation, we should try as much as possible to optimize issues of integrity. 80% of delays associated with our risk management arise from false declarations. And these false declarations sometimes are also blamed on government policy, for which Dr. Muda Yusuf and the man rep here related to. Yes, what is the role of customs? Implementation of government policy, but we don't end at that. We also make input to government policies. And that's one aspect that I've been addressing since I took over as Customs Area Controller in Tinkan. I will give one instance. If I examine 100 containers physically, and I don't give DN debit notes, or I don't raise issues of infraction on those containers, and I release them, it is expected that when next those containers come, I shouldn't examine them, because that importer has been certified to have met the expectations of my risk level. Therefore, they should tend towards AEO, which has been mentioned here. But what do we get? When you examine such containers, when next they come back, for the same importer, the same consignment, you are still obliged to examine them. So we should look into this, that when you examine cargo and there's no intervention, register that particular importer and the agent as having complied with their procedures, and they should gain mileage as we gain when we fly. They should gain percentage. If for a particular certain period that they are consistent with that, we move them to AEO. And that's one of the provisions that this book has made available that also excites us.
Okay, sir.
This man goes to the chairman of CCC.
The contribution of the maritime sector to our GDP is yet to be properly captured in our GDP computation. I've raised this issue before. When you look at the GDP, the National Bureau of Statistics report, what they have there is water transport. Water transport does not capture activities in maritime. And you see very, very small percentage. In fact, there are some years that the contribution of that sector is zero. That is not possible. With all the activities taking place, import, exports, people operating at the ports. So I'm hoping that with the proposed rebasing of the GDP, the maritime sector data will be better captured so that you can appreciate the contribution of that sector to the GDP. The maritime sector is crucial, it's a very crucial sector with strong linkages, and it impacts on all other sectors of the Nigerian economy. International trade activities impact all sectors, whether we are talking about manufacturing, agriculture, ICT, hospitality, real estate, construction, mining, energy, power, oil and gas, transportation, all of them. There is no sector that is not impacted by the maritime sector activities. To the extent that no country in the world can be self-sufficient in everything, international trade shall remain very relevant to the advancement of all economies. The impact of trade is systemic and cross-cutting, and that is why we need to pay more attention to our international trade ecosystem.